With us now is Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., who you might be surprised to learn running for president of the United States, just like his father was then. He has no Secret Service protection. And it's not that he and his team haven't asked for it, not once, but up to 5 times. Alejandro Mayorkas decides that. I raised that issue with the Homeland Security Secretary not too long ago. Take a look.
We have established factors. We have a bipartisan group of leaders in the United States Senate and the House
why wouldn't
that
he
make
qualify?
recommendations
Given
to
his
me.
family history, why wouldn't he qualify for that alone?
Because the factors are security related. The bipartisan group of members have recommended to me that security be declined. It is ultimately my decision, but I have followed their recommendation each time.
All right, well, I'm no brainiac when it comes to these matters, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr., very good having you. Given your family history, given your dad's killing 56 years ago today, of course, you witnessed the same with your uncle, John F. Kennedy, when you were 9 years old. I believe you were 14 at the time of your dad's assassination, but no Secret Service protection. It was ruled that way, and they've continued to rule that way.
Yeah, I was with my dad when he died in Los Angeles in 1968. Like you say, Neil, I was 14 years old at the time. The decision, you know, what Secretary Mayorkas told you is deceptive. He has absolute discretion to give me Secret Service protection. The Secret Service itself, which we've worked with and which has been very, very cooperative with us and supporting of me getting protection, did its own threat assessment and determined that I was at elevated risk. I've had 3 home break-ins since I announced my candidacy. In one case, a mentally ill person made it to the 2nd floor of my house when my family was home. In another case, an armed man came with fake federal ID, came to both a U.S. Marshal badge and fake federal photo ID on his belt, came to one of my rallies, demanded to be a private meeting with me in the green room. He had 2 concealed shoulder holsters with loaded magazines. He had a bag full of ammunition. And before he left to see me, he taped a TikTok address, his only TikTok post, in which he said goodbye if I don't return from this mission alive, telling people then what to do.
Well,
and
were
these are credible threats. I gave them.
Robert, were they aware of these incidents?
Yeah, they're aware of it.
So where is this coming from? I mean, that alone
pages
would give me pause, right? And Joe Biden, he reports to Joe Biden, so Joe Biden might just say, well, you've been through, well, yeah, what do we? There's little risk here in just giving him protection.
I am the first presidential candidate in history since my father, prior to my father's death. You are only entitled to Secret Service protection after you got the nomination of the party. The Congress changed that rule after my father was killed and made it available to everybody, including 120 days out, but they've given it to 33 people with much less poll numbers and a much less risk profile than I have. What Secretary Mayorkas says is being blocked by Chuck Schumer. Obviously, the White House is involved in this decision. They're very much aware of it. Many people have contacted President Biden on my behalf. President Biden has a bust of my father behind him at the Oval Office, and yet I'm the first presidential candidate in history since my father's death, 56 years, who's requested Secret Service protection, and it's been denied. This is an outlier.
I don't want to belabor the point, Robert, but what does your family say? I know to a man or woman they seem to be supporting Joe Biden. They went out of their way to show that, but I'm sure they're concerned about your safety. I'm sure they would prefer that you had protection. What have they said?
They say that they have asked President Biden to give me protection, but I don't know. We don't know what's happened in the White House to that request.
Okay, you are polling pretty well. It's tough to get break out when you can't get to a debate. You're not in the CNN debate that's coming up, or the one after that. Maybe you hope that changes, but you need to get on more ballots. Where do you stand there?
We're on the ballot in 7 states. We have enough signatures to get on in another 17 states. By mid-July, we will be on in every state.
Really? Well, let me ask you, there's another block that's on all 50 state ballots, so that's the Libertarian Party. Now, they recently had a chance to hear from Donald Trump. You might have heard that one got pretty nasty. I want you to respond to this.
If you want to win, if you want to lose, don't do that. Keep getting your 3% every 4 years. Now I think you should nominate me or at least vote for me, and we should win together.
All right, it was a pretty nasty reception. I don't know how they react to you. I know there are many who are saying, well, it's an easy way for you to get in all 50 states, but you're not exactly the classic definition of a libertarian. So what do you do?
Well, I spoke to libertarians the night before, and I got a standing ovation from them. The libertarians, I'm very aligned with libertarians on several issues, on the war issues, anti-war, on the constitutional issues, on personal freedoms, those areas, and on free market capitalism. So on those areas, I'm aligned with libertarians. There's other issues like the abolition of Social Security and Medicare in which, I differ from them.
Apparently it was the Social Security thing that knocked you off their list. But Donald Trump does have a point to say, unless they, put their arms around somebody, they are going to get 2 or 3% every 4 years. So what good is that? What do you think of that?
Well, that's up to the libertarians. I mean, I'm polling now pretty consistently in the real polls where they ask the polling question the way it's going to end up on the ballot. I'm polling at 15% or above. We're very happy where we are right now. I have 5 months and 4 days to persuade Americans that they should be voting out of hope and inspiration rather than out of fear. My favorability rating is better than either President Biden or President Trump. I'm beating them consistently in young people in this country, and I'm beating them among independent voters who are today the biggest voting cohort today. For the first time in history, independent, self-identified independents outnumber both Democrats and Republicans. 43% identify as independents, only 27% Democrats, 27% Republicans. So in that cohort, I dominate. Our challenge is getting to the baby boomers. And, at this point, the television networks won't let me on except for Fox. But the major networks will not let me on to do a live interview like you're doing right now. And I think that is the big obstacle to us. And if we can break down that barrier, we're pretty confident that we'll do well with the baby boomers as well.
Donald Trump has said more about you. He's zinged you a few times. You don't tend to zing back, and I just wonder why.
I said when I announced my candidacy a year ago that I'm not going to feed into the vitriol and the anger. We have this toxic polarization in our country that to me is more toxic than at any time since the American Civil War. And I think we have to figure out what I said. I'm going to try to identify the values that Americans hold in common rather than focus on mainly these culture war issues that keep us all apart, that are orchestrated to make us hate each other. And I think somebody has to try to bridge the gap between Americans, and that's what I've been trying to do with my campaign. So, I criticize President Trump for his policies, for running up the debt, for getting us in wars. for shutting the country down during COVID, for being friendly to all these big corporations and billionaires. And I don't go after him on personal issues. I try not to talk about his court cases, and I do the same thing with President Biden. No. Let's talk about issues. Let's talk about them in a respectful, congenial way, and then let people decide on that basis rather than trying to make us all hate each other.
Well, that is going on. Robert, do you mind sticking around? I'm going to take a quick break so we can pay our bills here. Want to come back to you, want to talk about what role you might assume if for some reason you don't win this presidential contest. More with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. right after this.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.